Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the SRU podcast with me and my guy, Will Royal. How you doing today, Will?
Tell you what, it's Thursday. I got to go watch some pigs today. I got to go cover this farm about 20 minutes from here.
Yeah,
Getting ready for the weekend. We got some good games lined up. Hopefully this is where I resume my lead after you came back
yeah.
after last week's pick'ems. And
I'm just that guy. I'm him.
yeah, but good slate of games. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. We do have a special guest, our guy, Jack Codemo. How you doing today, Jack?
Doing great. How are y'all?
We're doing good, man.
Can't complain.
Good to see you after like 3 weeks of trying to get you on the pod.
Yeah. I'm a busy man, guys. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Jack, we want to start this off. Tell us a little about yourself and tell us what college football teams you support.
Yeah, so I guess I'm originally from Memphis, like you guys. So college football teams kind of complicated. So I grew up. My dad went to Virginia, so growing up, I was always a big UVA football fan, which was like really painful. And I'm also a Washington fan, if you can see right there. So it just kind of goes hand in hand. And then I'm from Memphis. So I'm obviously a Tigers fan. Then overall, my number one team is the Alabama Crimson Tide, just because I go to school there.
Yeah. Hey, that's good to hear, man.
Yeah.
It's a little flip flopping. I was joking, but we do have what 6, 7 games to pick from this week. Looks like it's a little slower week. A few ranked teams that's playing this week. We're going to start it off with Syracuse versus Clemson, 11 a.m. game versus on ABC, with Clemson being a 13.5 point favorite. And we're going to start with their Syracuse quarterback, Garrett Schrader. He's 106 for 152 with 1434 passing yards, 12 TDs in the air, and 3 interceptions. They did just come off a huge win against who did they just play? North Carolina State, who lost their quarterback last week and gave Syracuse the edge in that game. But Clemson in the top 5, they're trying to join the playoffs contention. They're right there on the border with their starting QB, DJ Uiagalelei, with
Ukulele.
my bad.
Yeah.
With 137 for 213 passing yards attempts, my bad, with 1,665 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. This game, honestly, I know Syracuse is undefeated, one of the last undefeated teams in their conference, but it's hard to go against Clemson. They've looked good this year, and honestly, I don't see them losing any more ACC games or any more games this season, and I can see them making the playoffs this year in a tight race for all the teams that's in the playoff race. But Will, who do you have for this game?
I agree with you. I do think Clemson, they have 5 games left in the regular season. I think they have a strong chance of winning the remaining 5, and this one I don't see it as any difference. Clemson, according to ESPN, is an 83% chance of winning this game. And as much as I love to see Syracuse come back, like we were writing them off at the start of the season, possibly saying Dino Barbers will get fired. But no, he's 6-0, number 14 in the country. He's got a really good quarterback, Garrett Schrader, the Mississippi State transfer, and Sean Tucker at running back. But you just can't look past Clemson and all that Dabo's done for them. The game is at Death Valley, which makes it even harder for Syracuse. So I'm taking the Tigers.
Oh, Tigers. Jack.
I'm picking pretty much exclusively off vibes right now. I'm going with Clemson. Syracuse, they look pretty good against Virginia. But everybody looks good against Virginia. So I'm going with Clemson. They've looked good this year. I think DJ is definitely having a comeback year compared to the absolute horrendous showing he had last year. And I feel like that they have all the pieces to beat this undefeated Syracuse team.
All right. Hey, hey, we all agreed with the same picks. I like that.
Yeah.
I wish Will would have picked Syracuse though, just so I could get an edge. All right, Will, take us off with this next one.
Yeah, I don't really see us differing from this next game, and that is number 20 Texas traveling to Stillwater take on the 11th ranked Oklahoma State. Texas is a 6-point favorite with Quinn Ewers coming back from his injury. going 63 for 93, 820 yards with 9 touchdowns or interceptions, versus Spencer Sanders, who's had a lot more time. He's 120 for 205, 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But this is Oklahoma State that came off a loss to TCU, Texas, and narrow escape from Iowa State last week. ESPN has them at 66% favorite. But this Texas team looks a lot different with Quinn Ewers back. You had Hudson Card come in during the Alabama game, and he played up through up until Oklahoma, and he lost 2 games under there. And so far in these last few weeks, Texas has looked good, especially that win over Oklahoma. Big game boomer pack, always on our side. So I'm taking Texas in this one. I don't think it's even going to be close. Oklahoma, we did kind of hype them up because they were runners up in the Big 12 last year. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore because TCU is doing really good. And Texas, I think, is now coming back. I don't want to say, the Longhorn Nation, we're back kind of vibes, but I do think Texas is going to win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, for me, I definitely see Texas winning this game. Some might say that with Quinn Ewers, Texas beats Alabama. I might be on that hype train. I'm not 100% sure, but he was playing pretty good that game. With him back, they look like a completely different team. They're averaging 36.7 points per game and only allowing 18.3, which is Oklahoma State. I mean, we all know they have a high-flying offense, but their defense is always like lacking because it's a Big 12 defense that everyone knows that Big 12, they really don't play defense at all. With their averaging of 45.3 points per game with 27.8 allowed points, I'm definitely going to hop on that train with you, Will, and go with Texas. I like the Quinn Ewers being back and them looking different. So Texas, honestly, they could make a run for the Big 12 championship with this the ending half of this season. So Texas is my favorite for this game for sure. Jack, who do you have?
So I saw Texas in person at the Alabama-Texas game. Quinn Ewers is probably, like, no exaggeration, I think he's the best quarterback I've ever seen in person. The way he can throw that ball is insane. But for this game, I'm going to be taking Oklahoma State. I feel like they had the tough loss against TCU in a big overtime game. They have that little bit of fire underneath them, kind of biting their ass, and they're going to go in there. They're going to go, and I think they're going to take Texas. I don't feel like Texas has any way to really stop them on any side of the ball. I just think they're a better team, and I've got Oklahoma State.
Hey, I can't blame you for picking that. Texas does have Bijan Robinson, who's probably one of the better running backs in the nation.
He's insane.
So it could be a high scoring game. So either pick would have been a great pick, but Oklahoma State, with their shaky defense from that comeback last week, yeah, Texas is a good pick. But yeah, I don't blame you taking Oklahoma State. So this next game is in Fort Worth, and Will's best friend's going to be at that game. Big game boomer. He announced that he will be at this game this week against Kansas State, number 17 to TCU's number 8. TCU is a 3.5-point favorite, and they have a dark horse Heisman runner at quarterback with Max Duggan. He's looked great. He fought back and got TCU a dub last week against Oklahoma State, as we just went over. But Max Duggan, his average is 116 to 177. I mean, not 177, 167 with 1,591 yards. My bad. With 16 TDs and an interception to Adrian Martinez, 86 to 138 with 900 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interception. I feel like all of us are going to be on the same wavelength for this game, and we're going to go with the Frogs. Yeah.
The Frogs.
Yeah. Adrian Martinez, where did he just transfer from? He Washington State, right?
I believe so.
Some school, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he came from Wazoo. His stat line does not look good at all for me. And TCU they've shown that their defense is not a Big 12 defense. They actually have a defense that likes to play defense and not just let people throw all over them or run all over them. But they have averaged 26.5 points in allowed points from the other team. What TCU's has scored 45.8 points per game, which is crazy coming from that offense. Sonny Dykes looking good his first year there. Kansas State has only scored 28, well, the average of 28.7 points and only allowed 17.7. Kansas State has looked good this year, but that offense only scoring 28.7 is not looking good at all. Will, what do you have for this game?
First off, I'd like to apologize to TCU fans for letting that bozo into your stadium this weekend. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to pick against all. I'm going to take TCU. And one thing I'm going to point out at the start of the season was the comparison between running backs. We were all expecting Kansas State's running back Deuce Vaughn to have, a Heisman contention year up there with Bijan Robinson in terms of best running backs in the country. He's kind of underperformed. I mean, he still has about 700 yards, but only 3 touchdowns compared to Kendra Miller, who's about 100 yards short, but 8 touchdowns for TCU. So I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game, and I'm going to take the Frogs. No question about it. It's for you, JP.
Jack, who do you have for this game, man?
I got the Frogs, man. I'm all in on the Frogs. They've surprised me, and I think they've surprised America. Like, honestly, they have some weaknesses, but I'm having a really hard time trying to find them just watching their games. They play a really exciting style of football that I think will match up very, very well this weekend, and I believe that they are going to beat them by significantly more than 3 points. And I think I could see this game being a blowout.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a pretty, some might say a trap game coming up. Go ahead and take us with this one.
So we saw Penn State kind of get obliterated last week to Michigan. They do have what they would think would be a bounce back game against Minnesota, who's was ranked in the top 25 for a little bit, but as it stands, and this game is a primetime game, 6:30 on ABC. Penn State is now a 4.5-point favorite. They are a 62% chance of winning on ESPN, and it's kind of easy to see why. Minnesota's Tanner Morgan, who's feel like has been at the program forever, has been 83 for 124, about 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 4 rushing touchdowns. Sean Clifford, another quarterback who I feel like has been at Penn State forever, is currently 92 for 156, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 4 rushing touchdowns. So this game, I think, might be a toss-up. I don't want to rule out a Minnesota upset just yet, but I think Penn State has a lot more weapons. Actually, no, I'm kind of looking at the stats now, and as it stands, like even their running back, whose name I can't pull up right now, Ibrahim is better than Nick Singleton for Penn State. So you know what? I'm gonna take Minnesota on a field goal. I am taking the Golden Gophers on this one. Row the boat. Penn State kind of in disarray after last week's loss to Michigan. So I'm taking Minnesota on this one.
For this one, for me, Minnesota is on a 2-game losing streak. Their offense is pretty good. They average more with 34.5 compared to Penn State's 31.5. And they only allow 11.7 points to Penn State's 19.2. But I feel like the Penn State's points allowed has spiked just because of that Michigan game. This is a hard pick. This is a trap game, like I said. And it is a home game for Penn State. I feel like it's hard to go to Penn State and win. So I'm going to go opposite of Will. I'm going to go Penn State. I feel like they're going to bounce back. I feel like that game against Michigan lit a fire under their ass, and they're going to bounce back and win this game. And Minnesota's going to go on a 3-game losing streak. Jack, who do you think is going to win?
I think I got to go with you, Bryce. I do think that Penn State's probably going to end up winning this game. I do think it'll be close. I could see this going into overtime or multiple overtimes.
Yeah.
Just based on the way I've seen both of them play this year. But I do think that Penn State has that little bit of extra fire that Minnesota doesn't. And I think that'll carry them to victory. I also think that playing in Happy Valley will make this game a lot harder for Minnesota. And I just think that just vibes alone, I'm taking Penn State.
Yeah. Let's go to this next game. SEC matchup that is another trap game. I believe it is for Ole Miss and LSU. Lane Kiffin has, Ole Miss humming this year. They're undefeated. I'm pretty sure they're number one in the SEC West because Alabama lost last week. But let's start with the quarterbacks. LSU is a 2.5 point favorite, by the way. A 2:30 kickoff on CBS, and Jackson Dart, the starting quarterback for Ole Miss, has had a pretty, I would say, a decent year. Honestly, his TD to interception ratio is pretty bad, looking like a younger Matt Corral out there. There was a lot of hype for him coming out this season because he's a transfer from USC, and the nation loves the USC quarterbacks. But
Yeah.
I'm not that big of a fan on Jackson Dart. Not saying that they're not going to win this game. I'm not 100% sure yet, but let me read these stats off. Jackson Dart is 100 for 162 with 1,488 yards in the air, 11 touchdowns, as I just said, and 6 interceptions with 371 rushing yards to Jaden Daniels, who looking pretty decent this year. I feel like the system, him playing in a new system for LSU has handicapped him a little bit. He is 144 for 208 for 1,564 yards in the air and 10 touchdowns, 1 interception for 403 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. I don't know. Ole Miss strong point this year has been their defense, and LSU is kind of all over the place. They just had a big win against Florida to Ole Miss win against Auburn. And Ole Miss has had a pretty easy last 2 weeks playing Vanderbilt before that Auburn game. Ole Miss has an average of 40.9 points to LSU's 33.7, and Ole Miss is only allowed 17.3 to LSU's 21.3. This game, dang, I hate to go before Will just because I feel like he's gonna pick the opposite. But this game, I'm gonna go. Dang, it's in Death Valley too. Damn it. Just looking at the stats, it's pretty even, and I don't really know. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go LSU. I'm gonna go LSU for this game. Will, who do you have?
You seem so worried about going before me, thinking that I'm gonna pick different than you, weren't you?
Yeah.
Well, you're wrong. I am gonna choose LSU in this one. Because Jaden Daniels has been unreal. I think, coming in a transfer, coming in from Arizona State, and he's the leading passer and rusher with 16 combined total touchdowns. ESPN has LSU as a 51% favorite, which is pretty much almost 50-50, go either way. But you just can't stop Death Valley in big games like this. So I'm taking LSU in this one.
Jack?
All right. I am all aboard the motherfucking Lane train. I am all in on Ole Miss, man. Lane is probably, hot take, the best offensive schemer in college football. The way he runs an offense is unheard of anywhere else. I'd say him and honestly Mike Leach are two of my personal favorite offensive geniuses or gurus. I think that LSU has been overhyped all season for what they truly are. I feel like that they are shallow at many facets of both their offense and defense, and I think that Ole Miss knows how to exploit that very well. And I'm taking Ole Miss all the way on this. I don't even think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Honestly, I could see that happening, but just the Death Valley game, it's hard to win there. So
yeah,
I don't blame you because I almost went that route, Ole Miss blowing them out. But just Jackson Dart, I'm just not a fan of him at all. But Jack, this is the game that y'all are probably waiting on talking about between a team that just lost. I did make fun of Alabama last week, so I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yep. Mississippi State has the unfortunate task of playing Alabama, who lost, coming off a loss, and they were like that last year. Jack, you and I were together watching the Mississippi State game last year
We
at
were.
Bear Trap, and it was not pretty for Mississippi State. They are a 21-point favorite, with ESPN having them as a 91% chance of winning. Will Rogers coming in as one of the best passers in the country with over 300 attempts, with 2,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Bryce, coming back from injury last week, still put up a good game.
Yeah, almost a career game, honestly.
Yeah, we're just not going to talk about the last drive because our offensive coordinator is the most inept human being on this planet.
Yeah.
But he still has about 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 150 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns. I'm not even going to explain it. Alabama's winning. Roll Tide.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna have to go Mississippi State. I'm just fucking with you. Alabama's about the donkey dick. Mississippi State. It's not even close. Alabama's about to drag them, and they're probably going to cover the spread too with a 21-point spread. Yeah, it's not going to be close. I feel bad for Mississippi State. Bryce coming off an injury. I feel like he's feeling good. I actually didn't think Bryce was going to have a game he had last week. So it's not going to even be close. And I feel like Will Rogers, when he plays great defenses or great teams, he underperforms majorly. So yeah, I'm gonna go Alabama. Jack, I already know your answer, but go ahead and tell the people what
I'm going to be in attendance for this absolute fucking horse cocking of the Mississippi State Bulldogs. That elephant dick is going so far in the Bulldogs, man. I'm so hyped. I'm going to be at the game. It's going to be amazing. We're going to blow them out. I mean, vibes alone, I feel like our offense is going to kick their defense's butt, and I feel like our defense is also going to swallow up their offense. Like, I feel like there's no match. We are going to kill them. Nothing in between.
Hey, you couldn't even word it better, honestly.
Yep.
So
That is the mood of every Alabama fan since the Tennessee loss.
yeah. All right,
All
let's
right, Brian,
go.
do you want to take us off with our last game of the
Yeah,
week?
this last game, it's probably a preview of the Pac-12 championship, honestly. But it is a big game that will be in Oregon between Oregon number 10 and UCLA number 9, who's still undefeated. It's looking like LA is blue after that loss from USC to who did they just lose to?
Utah.
Utah. Yeah. And I'm not even going to go with that game. I would have been a game ahead of Will if USC would have won that. Oregon is a 6-point favorite with Dorian Thompson-Robinson putting up a great year for him. And Chip Kelly looks like he's back. He's playing his old college team, and he's looking for revenge after leaving for Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, was it the Eagles or was it the 49ers?
No, he left for the Eagles.
Okay, the Eagles. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was 122 for 163 attempts with 1,510 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 231 rushing yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. To Bo Picks, we'll put in our notes. 131 for 186 pass attempts with 1,526 yards, 12 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 331 rushing yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns. This game is hard. It's a hard pick for me. They are pretty even offensively and defensively. Both teams are on a pretty long win streak. After Oregon lost to Georgia, they look like they are back and they're looking for vengeance and they want to try to get in this playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen, but this is a hard game to pick just because both teams are looking hot. Even though some would say UCLA coming off a win from Utah 2 weeks ago, coming off a bye week also. They have had a tougher schedule than Oregon, even though Oregon did play one of the best teams in the nation. For this one, I'm gonna go with the hop on the UCLA train. I think LA is blue. Will, how do you feel about this game?
No, like you make a good argument. DTR has been one of the better quarterbacks we've seen in the country this year, and that's not to say Zach Charbonnet has been one of the better running backs, but this Oregon team, after their loss to Georgia in week 1, has been pretty good. Bo Nix already has 20 touchdowns, both in the air and on the ground. And they don't have Travis Dye at running back. They do have Brandon Irving, excuse me, but ESPN has it as Oregon as a 71-point favorite. It is at Autzen Stadium in Eugene. They are a 6-point favorite. So I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks as a very, very slim victory and put them up in possible conversation of being a playoff team. It obviously we're still early and, they still have to play either Utah, UCLA, USC in the championship. They still have to play Washington too, who's still been pretty good. But as it stands, I'm going to take Oregon to win this one.
Jack?
Yeah, so I'm taking Oregon. I'll just say that loud and clear. I think their offense is really good. I feel like they'll match up well against UCLA. I do think it'll be very, very close. But I also want to mention I have no respect for the Pac-12. But yeah, I will say I'm taking Oregon in this one just based off of Oregon's offense.
Hey, I don't blame y'all. This is a pretty hard game to pick. Most of the games that we've picked today have been kind of close now that I've looked at it. I didn't think this week would be that good, but there's a lot of trap games this week. And
then you have Bama.
Yeah, then you have Bama. But I'm glad for another week of college football. It's been a great year, honestly. There's a lot of teams in contention for the playoffs, and there's been a lot of good games this year. But Jack, thank you for coming on this week, man. We're
Good
glad
talking to you, man. All right, thanks for having me.
You got anything to say to the boys before we log off this one?
Oh wait, you're talking to me. I thought you were talking. Yeah. No, cheer loud at Brian Denning for me this weekend because I'm not gonna be able to make it. And roll tide.
Roll tide. All right. Thank y'all guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn in a post notification and see y'all see y'all Tuesday, Monday, usually when we do it.
Yep.
Peace.
Deuces.